It's a daily driver built for comfort, efficiency, and safety. But what makes this luxury SUV unique is not what's under the hood, it's who drives it. I'm Bob Galiska, welcome to 303 Car Care. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an episode. What we're driving and detailing today is a 2023 Volvo XC90 plug-in hybrid finished in denim blue with a brown interior. 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds, this hybrid powertrain delivers 455 horsepower, so it can be surprisingly fun to drive. What's not surprising is a Swedish badge being built for winter driving, and that's going to be our focus today, detailing cars after a harsh winter. And we picked this Volvo to showcase that because we like our jobs. The XC90 is owned by none other than our CEO, Marc Blackman. You'll learn about the 303 brand, see where the products are made, and meet the man leading this family-owned company that's closing in on its 100th birthday. But first things first, let's get this thing dialed in. I'm joined by 303 brand manager DJ, who's going to be detailing the XC90 today. After this car has been driven all winter, how are you going to tackle this detail?
So we're going to start by cleaning out the floor mats, get them cleaned off and let them dry. Then we're going to chemically decontaminate the paint before we start washing it using our car wash and a salt neutralizing wash booster. Then we're going to protect the exterior and then move inside for a deep clean.
All right, sounds good. Let's get to work.
So we're going to be chemically decontaminating the paint today versus physically decontaminating. One of the reasons that we're doing that is because we're not doing a paint correction. If you physically decontaminate with something like a clay bar or clay mitt, you can introduce marring to the surface and you'll have to polish that out. We still want the contaminants off the surface. This is a good way to do it if you're not going to be doing any paint correction afterwards. One of the great things about our wheel cleaner is we just use it as a chemical decontaminant, but we're also going to be using it for what it was designed for, removing heavy caked-on brake dust. Like we talked about earlier, we're going to be using our salt neutralizing wash booster. This is great for a post-winter wash because it removes any salt deposits. We're going to be using that on the paint, in the wheel wells, and then underneath on the frame. So while I'm rinsing the soap off, Bob's going to be using the pressure washer attachment to clean out the dirty undercarriage, and that will help remove any salt deposits down there and keep it clean and prevent any corrosion and get it ready for the spring. So now that we washed the car, we're going to be adding some protection. For that, we're going to use our spray and rinse ceramic sealant. Any type of hydrophobic protection you use is going to turn the paint from sheeting to beading. That's going to keep your paint cleaner longer and also make it easier to clean and dry off when you're washing your car. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying sheeting. It's laying flat on the paint. When I spray this on there and then we rinse it off, it's going to start beading up, and that means it's protected. So remember how earlier we said hydrophobic protection makes it easier to dry your car off? This is what we were talking about. You can use an electric leaf blower, or even if you're just using a regular drying towel, it'll help absorb more water and make that process a lot quicker. So now that we've finished drying the car off, we're going to be using a UV protectant on the tires and exterior plastic trim. You always want to make sure you use a UV protectant to keep them from fading and help keep them looking like new. We talked a lot about salt on the exterior vehicle. It can also damage the interior too. So that makes deep cleaning the inside an important step of the post-winter cleaning process.
That wraps up the work in the garage. About 2 hours to get the XC90 looking like new. DJ, any final thoughts?
Post-winter wash, deep cleaning is an important step in the vehicle maintenance process. It'll help keep the body, frame, and interior in good condition over the life of the vehicle.
Well, let's hope Mark's happy with the work we did and we get to keep our jobs. Usually this is where we go for a spin with the owner, but since he's our CEO, we're going to start right here in our Chicago manufacturing plant. We're joined now by Marc Blackman, CEO of Gold Eagle Company, the makers of 303. Mark, we're here in the plant, but we do so much more here than just manufacture the products. What else happens under this roof?
Well, and I think in order to answer that, I have to start with what happens outside the roof. Okay. And that is, it starts with the consumer. The better that we understand the consumer, we do a lot of research to really understand what the problems are that they have today, what their needs are, how we can meet those needs better than anybody else out in the market. The better that we understand that, then that enables us to start creating the formulas that meet those needs, the packaging that meets those needs. All that innovation is done in-house here. Ultimately, it gets to our production floor. It's all made right here and then distributed at our distribution center, which is a couple blocks away.
So that really kind of makes this company unique because many of our competitors don't do almost everything under one roof.
Well, they don't do necessarily everything under one roof, but many of our competitors are not family owned. I've got a team here that is incredible. We take great pride in what we do, and we're not going to settle for second best.
But when did we acquire the 303 brand?
We started talking to 303 probably in 2010, and then by the time we actually made the acquisition, it was 2012. Two companies coming together with an owner that is really seeing his dream fulfilled for his brand, and we take great pride in that.
Going into the appearance space, we always did performance chemicals, fluids, brake fluids, power steering fluids, fuel additives. We weren't really in that appearance space in the past. 303 kind of catapulted us into that, which is a much different world than everything else we played in.
We have a corporate why, and one of the reasons that we created that corporate why was because we were getting into the appearance. The corporate why is driven to protect and preserve the things you love. And what we realized was that our consumers, again, through research, were telling us that if they have the right product, the things that they're very passionate about, whether it's their house, their car, their boat, they're not going to pay just a little bit less for something that that's mediocre. They want the very best, and they want products they can trust. That's what we are trying to make sure we fulfill that promise.
So we're here at filling line 11 where they're actually running graphene nano spray coating. You mentioned how we have 303 as a brand now for about 13 years.
Yeah.
What's the favorite product that you've used?
When we acquired the 303 line, the number of products were not nearly as extensive as what we have today. But there were some foundational great products, and my favorite was, and still is, the protectant. I mean, protectant can be used in so many different ways and so many different applications, and it's phenomenal what it does.
That's how the product started. That's how the brand started.
That's exactly right. And so that's still my favorite. There's nothing, in my opinion, humble opinion, totally objective, of course, there's nothing on the market like it. But now, with the consumer research and things that we've learned, we've really innovated and come up with some very differentiated type products. I get pretty excited by it.
So we talked a lot about innovation. We saw the product run on the line. We found out what your favorite product is. How do we keep those high quality standards in every bottle that we send out to the consumer?
When you talk about quality, your timing's perfect because we just happen to be right in front of our quality and compliance.
It's like they planned this.
How did you do this?
I know.
We will never put anything in the bottle that doesn't meet the claims on the label. Now I gotta tell you, sometimes that's like fighting with one arm behind your back.
For sure.
I don't have to tell you, you know.
Well, that's one great thing though. We test quality here to make sure our products exceed our standards, but we also third-party test a lot of our products. So not only we are beating our chest, other people are blindly beating it for us, which I think should mean the world to any consumer that's out there.
One of the things that we value the most is the trust that we have with the consumer. We're ISO certified. That's very much a quality measure, and that's to keep us honest and make sure that we're not backing off whatsoever on the quality, on the testing. And this department, when we're making products on the line right out here, this department is getting samples in the beginning, making sure that the samples meet our specifications. Then it gets released to the line. The line is then making the products, and all through the production run, they're getting tested and making sure that everything is exactly according to spec and there's nothing wrong with it. The people that have tried our products are our regular fans, raving fans. It's because there's trust. They know it's going to work. We say what our product does and no more. So we're proud of that.
Okay. Are you ready to take us for a spin in that nice clean Volvo?
I am absolutely ready.
All right,
let's go. Do I get to use all 455 horses?
If you can handle it. So, it's a very important question. Why did I have to clean your car in order for me to keep this job?
Was that the surprise question? You know what? I just needed to see what your talents were.
I need to make sure I actually was working?
I see you on the camera all the time, and you're very talented with that, but you know, I want to see that you're the guy that's really doing this.
Give us a little bit of history on how Gold Eagle got started.
It's kind of a funny story. My wife's grandfather used to work for a company called Black Swan. Black Swan was a company that did a lot of things for automotive, but it was not, you know, all the kinds of products we do today. Armin Hirsch, my wife's grandfather, was very successful working for Black Swan, and he worked in a territory and would build up that territory, and the company would come to him and say, hey, you know, we gotta thank you for building this up. We gotta chop it up a little bit so that others have a chance to make a little more money. And after about the third time they did that, he got pissed. And finally he marched into the owner's office and said, I'm out of here. And not only am I out of here, I'm gonna start my own company, and I'm in a fit of rage. He said, I'm gonna call it Gold Eagle instead of Black Swan. Now, to tell you how much guts that took, that was in 1932, in the middle of the Depression. My father-in-law and his brother both ended up going to law school, but had worked in the family business, kind of helping his dad, more so my father-in-law than his brother, Bob Hirsch, and found that he really enjoyed the business. And so he was like #1 in his Northwestern law class, and his dad was starting to have health issues, and he pretty much said, you know what, I'm going into Gold Eagle. And that was, 66, 67 years ago, and he worked until he retired in Gold Eagle, about 65 years.
What roles have you played all the way from when you started to becoming the CEO?
I started in 1993, so I'm right now into my 31st year, and the company was very different at the time that I started, as you might expect. We were not nearly as much of a marketing company. We didn't have brands. We did have the Stabil brand, but it was in its infancy. I came from the wine business, totally different world, and I was in the sales and marketing side. So coming into Gold Eagle and coming into a chemical company and a manufacturing company was very different. And so the owners really felt like the best way for me to learn the business wasn't necessarily to be in sales and marketing or of brands. It was more sales in the private brand business.
Okay.
And so I was the very first private brand sales manager that we had. Learned a ton about our company, learned a ton about the category and really the needs of our customers. Not too long after, we acquired Heat, and then a 104 plus octane boost, then Alumaseal. It was kind of a progression, and then slowly I took over all of sales and marketing. And then they threw me for a real curve, Bob. They said, okay, well, thank you very much. You're now no longer running sales and marketing, you're now in charge of operations.
It's a little bit of a change.
A little bit. Here's a guy, and I walk out at that plant every day and think about what I didn't know then, and I'm still very fortunate that we've got a great professional team that are the experts in production and in our operations, but I know enough to be dangerous just because I had that experience, and I know what questions to ask and know how to best support what the company needs because of it. After doing that for a couple years, 2001 they made me president, and in 2007 I became CEO.
What does the future for 303 look like?
Gold Eagle is very uniquely positioned. So many of our competitors are much bigger but are owned by private equity, and one of the things that really bother me about the private equity side is that they just turn and burn. So every 5 years they get sold, and what often happens is the beauty of what a brand is deteriorates over time.
Yeah, it gets
with
lost.
a lack of continuity. So we feel that through the innovation, through the values that we have as a company and our real commitment to the consumer, we feel that we can build 303 into a leading brand. We think we've got the capability to do that over the long term.
We're riding in the Volvo. You had some other SUVs before this, other cars. What made you choose this?
Well, I think this is a fantastic car. I love it. I think my favorite car, just from a driving standpoint, was probably the Audi Q7. It started to have some mechanical issues, and so I decided, it was important to start understanding a little bit more about this EV thing that's going on. It's important that we really, as a company, understand with fuel additives and engine additives, and that being a big part of our business, understand where that business is going.
The nice thing on the 303 side, there's always paint to protect.
It's exactly right. If protection and being driven to protect and preserve the things that people love is the key element here, we can do engines, but we can also do, the outside, and that's always going to be necessary. When I have the time to get out and wash the car, I love it because I know it's done right and everything's just perfect.
We want to thank Marc for joining us and giving us some behind-the-scenes information on 303 and our facility here in Chicago. Thanks, Marc.
My pleasure.
The products made here make their way to all major automotive retailers as well as Amazon. Check them out for yourself and let us know what you think. Again, if you liked the episode, make sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thanks again, and see you next time on 303 Car Care.
All right, now get your ass back to work.